Tech. My name is Ian. We're going to go over a video today, and we're going to be showing the disassembly and reassembly of a differential, but I wanted to kind of explain the parts and the way they work together. Now, obviously, this is the transmission, and our yoke. Now, the yoke is what connects to the drive shaft through the U-joints and sends the power down the drivetrain to the differential, which then sends the power to the wheels. But I just wanted to mention, like, one thing, if you ever hear the phrase phasing in reference to drivetrains, they're talking about the yoke, making sure they're the same way on both ends of the drive shaft. So you want them both sitting like that, or however. And then U-joints, there's also an angle called the driveline angle, the working angle, and it needs to be within. It's 1 to 3 degrees. You need a little bit of angle on these U-joints so they actually engage the roller bearings that are inside and have them greased properly. Now the U-joints,
Nigga, you was all wrong.
they transmit the power over to the differential, and we're going to go over here and discuss that. Now, as you can see, this is a smaller differential. They all work on the same principle. This is from an older S10, I believe. But you have a U-joint here, and like I said, that's the input of the differential. So this is spinning. It's connected to the drive shaft and the U-joint, and it starts spinning, and it starts sending power to the wheels. And that's so they can make a turn without scrubbing on the road, and it sends the right amount of power and equals them out between them. So, and come up here, we're going to do a little look at it real quick. So it is a pretty basic concept, but it has to be correct. You have your the whole differential right here. Your ring gear underneath is your pinion gear, and also your side and spider gears. Now, there are two different types of differentials. This one is a single, and that means it stays on the vehicle. All you do is remove this single part and replace it. If you do need to service it, on larger, heavier duty vehicles, you have a one single body, a banjo, and the whole piece comes out. These really can't be serviced individually. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this.
One.
Alright, so we're going to start by taking off the end caps. And I already had them loosened. And one thing, when you are taking these apart, you want to make sure they stay in they have a side. This side stays on this side, and this side stays on this side. So you want to make sure to keep track. And before you start any more disassembly, you have to take this center shaft out, which is held in by this little pin right here. So let me get my ratchet. Go ahead and take that out.
One.
Alright, as you can see, I started with the ratchet. It was a little bit too tight. Switch to a wrench. And when you do take this out, you want to make sure to support this center shaft or have a magnet on top, because when you take it out, it's that easy. And that's all you're looking at. It hooks in right there. Now the next step is you're going to push his axles in and get the C-clips out. And what you want to do your best not to have them drop in. So you either use a magnet or some pliers, and that's all that's holding this axle in, this differential, that channel. And that's all it is now you can take the axle out. And one thing to remember, these axles are very dependent on size. They are different sizes, even if it's only a few thousandths of an inch, and if you put them in incorrectly or the wrong side, you'll just destroy the differential and the axles way quicker. So you'll make sure you keep them on the side that they came out of. And that's basically it. Now you can lift the whole thing out, but there's also spacers and shims on the side that you want to be careful of. And like I keep saying, they are dependent on left and right sides. I'm going to move over here real quick. Move our differential cover to the side. So when you go through this, you want to do an inspection and replacement of any parts that may need it, or these whole assembly, because they are gears, they work together, they're made to work together. So we look at our tapered roller bearings, make sure it spins correctly, any cracks, gouges, breaks. Look at our shims and spacers, if they're warped, or crush washers, those get replaced every time. Keep that to that side. And we do the same for the opposite side. Look at our roller bearings, our spacers, shims, and racers. Now, we're going to set this up, and we're also going to inspect the teeth here, because the ring gear engages with the pinion gear that's in the bottom of the differential, which I'll look at in a minute. And you want to make sure that the teeth are clean, that there's no heat marks, breakage, chips, cracks, anything like that. And you also want to do the same on our spider gears, which at this point, you just spin that and pop them right out. And these do have crush washers on the side too, and you want to make sure you don't replace those with new whenever you do this. Like I said, just looking at the gears, inspecting them, making sure they turn, not turn, but they don't have any chips, heat marks, anything like that. Oh, this one's being a bit of a pain. Crush washer out the way. And once again, make sure you keep them on the same side they got out of. Those look good. No heat marks, no chips missing. But they're not especially shiny, because that means they're worn and they need to be replaced. And the top and bottom come out as well. And you want to inspect the splines in these as well, and the crush washer and spacers. So while we have that here, we're going to go ahead and go look at our pinion. Same thing, we're going to look for any heat marks, chips, cracks. Now, if you do look closely, you notice all this yellow stuff on there. That's iron oxide, which is used for when you reassemble this. When these spin, they have to engage at the right part of our ring gear, like right in the center. That looks good. So they have to engage in the right part of these gears, because there is a drive and a coast side, and we want to engage pretty much right in the center here, not too high or too low, because that way that will lead to premature wear and things of that nature. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and put this back together.
Back.
He said he's going to RSI dependent. Make sure you put it back on the correct side and they have the crush washers in there. Now you got to get them lined up because obviously you have to put the center shaft back in. And this whole thing, just like that, drops in as one piece. So, like I said, you want to be careful, obviously, not to crush your fingers when you do this. Now those should relatively easily slide right in, but if not, get a piece of wood or a non-marking hammer and gently tap them back into place. And the pinion gear that you saw earlier, that's how it works. It just grabs the teeth right there in the center, which when you get this fully assembled and torqued down correctly, then you would put the iron oxide on the teeth and check the contact points. We're going to go ahead and start getting this back together. And these are machine parts, so you do want to be careful whenever you're doing this. So we can go ahead and put our axles back in. And the splines on the side gears and the splines on this have to line up. I mean, one thing I did not mention is when you take these axles out, you want to inspect the splines on here for also any heat marks, chips, cracks, excessive wear. And if you're ever confused about what excessive wear is, check the manufacturer specifications, and then you'll find out. Do this also, you want to make sure to replace these seals. Went in nicely. Oopsie. Turn that and just drop the C-clips right in there. Hopefully don't drop them like that. Pull that one back. And if you do that, get a magnet, we'll move this around, and it should drop back in. But one thing you want to, that I did not show you, is back here, there are little channels in here. That's for the, in the back there. It's a little groove inside the differential, and what that does is the hydraulic oil, or the differential oil, when it flows around, it creates the right pattern of flow. So all the gears in here have the right lubrication and cooling. Like I said, pull that one back. Okay, we're good. Nice and carefully. Drop that in, catching the hole again. Like I said, once again, either use a magnet or a finger at the bottom, so make sure it doesn't drop all the way through. Wrong way. When you do these, once again, you want to look at the manufacturer specifications for the correct torque patterns. This is a trainer, so I'm just gonna get him tight. Okay. And since that's all assembled, we're gonna go ahead and put our side caps on. Once you get these put back together, you apply the iron oxide and get the tooth wear pattern. If that did need to be adjusted, you would have to be adjusting on the side gear with the shins, and to move the contact point between the ring gear and the pinion gear back together. But once you do have it assembled, you go ahead and give it a turn. Make sure there's no binding. The differential is exactly what it sounds like. It sends equal amounts of power to both wheels so that you can drive safely down the road. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day.